Creek Indians in the building. All right, Indians believed no one could own land. White males thought that they could buy it. Then they met the Oconee River and begged to differ, and now fighting against each other in the Oconee War. The Creeks burned many homes during this time, which made settlers very mad. Then the Treaty of New York came along and stopped the fighting. Chief McGillivray signed it. Then in 1812, the Creek War started. It began near Fort Mims and ended in Horseshoe Bend. The guy who led the battle is known as Andrew Jackson. He was later elected President of the United States in 1825. There was a treaty known as the Treaty of Indian Springs. McIntosh signed it and was later scalped because he gave away the rest of the Indian land. His cousin was the governor at the time, which is why he felt compelled to give it away. McIntosh was given $200,000 to sign over the land to George Troup. Then Andrew Jackson came along again, but wait, this time he's president. Andrew Jackson helped pass an act that was kind of important in 1830. This act was called the Indian Removal Act. It said all Indians must move to Indian territories. Indians were mad, but guess what? Who cares? That's right, no one. Andrew Jackson just didn't dislike the Indians, no. He just knew who was electing him. The Choctaw were the first to go, and hunters died on the trip to Oklahoma. What little Creek were left in Georgia died because of hunger and smallpox. Towards the end of the Creek removal, there was another Indian war. This war involved the Seminoles, and the Creek were asked to help. Of course, the Creek and Georgians won, but guess what? The Creek still had to leave. So then it began. The Creek were going to Indian territory still. Lots of people thought the government would have mercy for helping, but guess what? They didn't. So in 1835, all the Creek were gone.
Now it's time to say hello to the Cherokee. The Cherokee lived in the Appalachian Mountains. They were considered the most civilized tribe. This was because they were Christian and adopted their white ways. Chief Dan was very important to the tribe. He brought the missionaries to help teach Christianity to his people and children, but not to be forgotten to is George's Gist, otherwise known as Sequoia. He gave Cherokee people a syllabary, which took 12 years to develop. Many of the tribe made fun of him, but later changed their mind, because he wanted to read and write. Within 6 weeks, most of the tribe could read the symbols. He was given a medal, which he wore until he died. In 1828, the newspaper was started. It was called the Cherokee Gazette, and it was printed in the Cherokee and in English. This newspaper was good for spreading word. In 1825, there was a permanent capital. It was called New Echota. This was a good place to be educated and raised. When they moved, they adopted a new constitution similar to the U.S. Constitution. They did all this to seem more civilized, so that they could keep their land. They saw what happened to the Creeks and decided to change. Anyway, in 1829, gold was founded on Cherokee land, which meant they had to leave. This area is now known as Dahlonega, which has lots of gold for those very mines. Benjamin Parks gets credit for finding the gold. After the gold was found, 10,000 miners moved to Cherokee land. The Cherokee had no right to any of the gold. At this point, Georgia was done with the Cherokee, but some missionaries said, "Hold on, buddy." The missionaries couldn't live on Cherokee land unless they had took an oath. 11 people refused to sign the oath and were jailed on March 1831. Worcester and Butler took their cases to Supreme Court, but they didn't win. But their nation was helped. John Marshall ordered the Worcester and Butler to be released, but guess what? No, they weren't.